Interesting timing, don't you think? The Inspector General's report comes out about January 6th, and it indicates that, oh, yeah, there were informants. There are quite a few FBI informants, paid informants. I think it's 5 or 6 that went into the Capitol, and what was it, about 13 that went into restricted areas. But none of them faced any punishment. That's interesting as well. Chris Wray stepped down or announced his resignation about the time that report came out. That's really interesting timing. And I'm very, very curious about something and what I'd like to see when Team Trump takes over the DOJ. I hope that they have sent out a bunch of record retention notices, or they'll do that on day one. Be really curious to see what's being deleted from DOJ email files and meeting notes, because I got to think there's a lot. And I'm very curious about the names of CNN reporters and MSNBC reporters and New York Times reporters that would appear in a forensic database search of DOJ assets in regard to January 6th and the Fed napping, the fake kidnapping that occurred where there were more FBI informants than actual participants. Brian Stelter played a key role in describing the hoax around January 6th, the hoax that there were assets, federal assets on the ground. I'll show you this in a second. Not that Brian is the great, great example of wisdom. Maybe worldly wisdom, certainly not fear of God. I can't say that I always allow God's wisdom to run my life, but I've got a strong reminder to do this, and it comes in the form of a drop of a liquid. It's a Bible-based herbal blend called Wisdom. And this is probably the third time today I've taken this. I think Alex can attest to that. And it's delicious. It really is. It tastes like honey. And it is a medicinal property that I seek. I'm just calling it medicinal. This came about because a doctor named Patrick Tempo was in the Holy Land. He's walking in the footsteps of Jesus, and he's smelling these herbs and these spices and reflecting upon his reading. And he'd noticed that many times throughout the Bible, spices and herbs are treated almost in sacred ways. You take that combination of being in God's word, walking in the footsteps of Jesus, smelling these smells, and he was inspired to take his scientific training and combine it with his love of God. That's how this was born. So this is a oil-based blend of biblical herbs with modern science to make it potent. First of all, it's made in small batches, so they have quality control. Secondly, it's cold brewed because cooking things can destroy the potency. Third, it is infused with light waves and sound waves that lock in the potency that you will taste. I love the taste of it. My daughter puts it in her coffee. She still gets the kick of the coffee, but without the edge. I just take it throughout the day. Delivers calm to me. It helps with joint pain. It helps with inflammation and immune response, and it's biblical. So try Wisdom. Go to trywisdomnow.com/Todd. When you stock up on this, you're going to get 33% off at trywisdomnow.com/Todd. You're going to get free shipping at trywisdomnow.com/Todd. And at trywisdomnow.com/Todd, you'll get a 180-day money-back guarantee. That's trywisdomnow.com/Todd. Here's Brian Stelter, nicknamed by many people the Potato, talking about the hoax that there were informants of the FBI there on January 6th.
When you assume you make an ass of you and me.
Tucker Carlson must have forgotten this lesson from The Odd Couple, because his latest January 6th conspiracy theory makes huge assumptions in a baseless bid to let rioters off the hook.
But strangely, some of the key people who participated on January 6th have not been charged.
Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene assuming Carlson is right and saying we need names and answers about the FBI operatives who were involved. But this is just yet another baseless theory that Carlson has hyped to millions of people. The existence of unnamed, as yet uncharged co-conspirators does not mean that they were working undercover for the FBI. But in Tucker world, conspiracy beats reality. Just look at his banner on screen asking what really happened on January 6th, as if it's some sort of mystery. And his guest,
of a prior relationship with the federal government.
Darren Beattie, a former speechwriter for President Trump, attended a conference frequented by white nationalists. But Tucker never mentioned any of that. Instead, he promoted Beattie's website, which posted a just asking questions sort of story, suggesting that the feds infiltrated militia groups who ransacked the Capitol.
Always with the questions. Great reporting. CNN's Brian Stelter. Brian is here along with the former FBI Assistant Director for the Criminal Investigative Division, Chris Wray. They're going to explain exactly what's going through Tucker Carlson's head. That's next.
Yes, of course, because they know what's going through Tucker's head. So that revolver report, what was in it? Well, there was a guy who climbed atop a scaffolding. He was about 4 stories in the air, and he had a bullhorn. And he was saying to the crowd, keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Now, he did that after, recalling from memory, dude named Ray Epps approached some guys standing around the perimeter, had a quick conversation with them. And then they went about taking down the security fencing and the signs that said, do not enter. Very famously, there was a dude who rolled up the plastic fencing. He happened to be an African-American guy, just by way of identification. He took it upon himself. There was this plastic landscaping fencing up with these signs saying, do not approach. He decided to take those down. There were other guys who helped with that. And the police never stepped in to stop that behavior. Like, hey, get off the scaffolding. Hey, don't take down the fencing. And that fencing was taken down right at the right spot where the crowd would come around the corner from President Trump's speech and walk into the Capitol. The guy on the scaffolding, after the doors were open, said, now we really need you. Keep moving forward. He's not been identified. Isn't that weird? Nor has the guy who took down the fencing. He hasn't been identified. Isn't that weird? Here's some things we know. There were Capitol Police and D.C. police in the crowd who helped people climb the scaffoldings into the Capitol. We know there was at least one Antifa member there because he sold his footage of Ashley Babbitt being killed by a cop who's had a massive number of disciplinary actions against him, including leaving his gun in the bathroom. He falsified the timeline around the shooting. This again, according to Revolver News, and based upon the actual recordings of what happened. After he shot Ashley, then he got on his radio and said, we're under assault, we need help. Ashley was already dead. But of course, asking questions. Brian Stelter says, there's just asking questions pieces. That always raises suspicions because one thing CNN will never, ever do is ask questions to which they don't know the answer. My curiosity is this. If Kash Patel is, in fact, the new FBI director, I want him to work with the new Attorney General, Pam Bondi. I want them to freeze all records. I want to see a massive forensic search of all records of the DOJ and the FBI, phone numbers, texts, WhatsApp, if they can pull that up. I want to see the names of CNN reporters and producers and executive producers. I want to see that at the New York Times, at the Mockingbird Media. And I would like to know exactly why all these people seem to dance at the same tune at the same time. Chris Wray lied. There were informants there. And once again, it was the combination of Julie Kelly and Revolver News who broke this story far, far, far ahead of the Mockingbird Media. And let's not forget, it wasn't just Brian Stelter and Chris Wray. There was the very dangerous paper bully, Merrick Garland, who also lied about January 6th, and he did this under oath.
Okay, I was hoping today to give you an opportunity to put to rest the concerns that people have that there were federal agents or assets of the federal government present on January 5th and January 6th. Can you tell us, without talking about particular incidents or particular videos, how many agents or assets of the federal government were present on January 6th, whether they agitated to go into the Capitol, and if any of them did?
So I'm not going to violate this norm of the rule of law. I'm not going to comment on an investigation that's ongoing.
On that video, that was your answer to a question to me 2 years ago. When I said how many agents or assets of the government were present on January 5th and January 6th and agitating in the crowd to go into the Capitol and how many went into the Capitol. Can you answer that now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, last time, you don't know how many there were or there were none?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions. If there were any, I don't know how many. I don't know whether there are any.
I think you may have just perjured yourself that you don't know that there were any. You want to say that again, that you don't know that there were any?
I have no personal knowledge of this matter. I think what I said the last time.
You've had 2 years to find out.
He may well not know. Because there's a thing in Washington, D.C. called protect the principle through plausible deniability. Make it happen, don't give me the details. Let's find out. A massive search, forensic and otherwise, of everything at the DOJ, and in fact, a calling together of the staff, the so-called career public servants. Let's call them together in a room or in a massive auditorium and say, here's the deal. We're going to find out what happened on January 6th, what happened in the fake kidnapping in Michigan. We're going to find out about the shooting that you allowed to happen in Texas. There were informants there as the shooting began, and they didn't stop it. We're going to find out why. We're going to find out about Project Gunrunner. We're going to find out about Fast and Furious. We're going to get everything. And anyone who doesn't help us is fighting against us. And you're going to be treated as hostile to the American people finally getting a Department of Justice back rather than a Department of Democrat assault on justice.